Welcome to Season 6 of the RAG podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, the RAG stands for Recruitment Agency Growth, and this show has been around since early 2019. And every week, we are obsessed with finding out how the world's most successful and innovative recruitment agencies and their founders have got to where they are today. In Season 6, alongside the founder's story and the inside information of that business, I also want to focus on the reality of today's economy. There is so much noise about this inevitable recession that we find ourselves in right now. And where it's going to go, is it really having an impact on the recruitment sector? Are they seeing any change in job flow? Are they seeing any change in candidate control or activity? What is going on? I want to find out. So every single week, I want to forget the propaganda, forget the noise. I'm going to speak to a real life recruitment owner and find out what is going on in their business. I will bring it to you every single Wednesday from 12 o'clock across multiple platforms. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast. On this week's show, I'm joined by Mike Lee. Mike is the former founder of a recruitment payroll company called Worker Group. Now, this is not a normal episode where I interview a recruitment founder, but Mike's experience and relevancy to our sector, I felt would be a really good story for you guys to listen to. Now, Mike started his career in the industry 15 years ago. I mean, over 50, I think it was 17 years ago, in fact. But he started his journey of running payroll companies from the age of 20 years old. At 35, he's now exited, made well over 7 figures, and been through the process that so many people would like to go through. So he went from salesperson to sales director to founder, and then scaled a group that went through 6 acquisitions and then sold successfully at the end of 2021. Mike formally exited his role at the end of last year and is now a consultant with the business. And so in this episode, he told the truth about the reality of growing a business, getting it prepared for sale, the highs, the lows, things that worked really well, things that didn't, and what it was really like post-exit. You know, he talks about sitting on the sofa and finding out the money's hit the bank, but also he talks about the lack of purpose and direction that he instantly felt and why he's now gone into his new venture. So, an honest guy, a young, successful entrepreneur that I believe we could all learn from. So, without further ado, Mike, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Thank you, Sean. Pleasure to be here.
Straight off a plane from Dubai into the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Straight back into the firing line. But no, it was a nice week away.
When did you get back?
Degrees. I got back on Saturday night and then caught food poisoning Saturday night. So just getting back to full strength, but been looking forward to it.
You've been on holiday, come back, get food poisoning on your return, or is it from the trip?
No, on my return, Saturday night takeaway.
Oh no! What was it? Chicken or something?
Yeah, it was. There's boring, isn't it? Thai place in Altrincham that's now a street van. So yeah, just don't go to a street van. That's the lesson.
God, I'm dying. I'm so you're dying of food poisoning. I'm currently sat in my new house because I've moved. I moved last week, but I've officially moved my office yesterday. So I've got dust rising. I can feel it in my nose. So if I'm sneezing, it's not. I'm not ill. I'm just. I'm just dealing with that. Mike, thanks for coming on the show. I've done a little introduction there, but could you do me a favor? For anyone who's listening now, just tell us who you are today, and we'll go back. So I don't want the story. Just who you are and what you do right now.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, I'm Mike Lee. I am currently still servicing the recruitment sector, but have naturally moved into the property market after 15 years of 15 years of working with recruiters, recruitment agencies, and contract workers. But yeah, a new version of me now.
Right. So this is a bit different. I normally only interview recruitment owners. This time you're not a recruitment owner, but you are a business owner who scaled and exited a payroll solution effectively to the recruitment sector, and still work with us now. So I thought there'd be still loads of value in that. It'd be slightly different as well. People might think, well, you might learn stuff from this that's different from a traditional recruitment firm. So you started in the payroll sector, a company called Paystream, locally to home in 2000 and when was that? 2007.
2007. Yeah, 2007.
So that's what got you? How did you get into that?
I went to uni for 6 months, and as everybody does, falls into a course you don't really want to do, spends a lot of time drinking, very minimal time at uni.
That
6
was me,
months
yeah.
in, I'm like, yeah, like most of us, probably a lot of people that went to uni and ended up in recruitment. Left after 6 months, thought it's just not for me, need to start making some money.
Where were you?
And
Were you at Manchester Uni or?
I went to Leeds.
Right.
Leeds Met. I'm not good enough for Leeds Uni. Leeds Met. And then, a job came up at a company called Paystream, who a number of the listeners will know, one of the biggest service providers in the marketplace. Started there without really understanding what the market was. First job.
What was that like, though, in terms of actually quitting Leeds and moving back to Manchester? How did you? That must have been quite a tough moment to.
Yeah, well, I was always, to be fair, a lot of our mates were at uni there anyway, so we didn't make any new friends at uni because a lot of my mates were at Leeds Uni. So I spent a lot of time on their sofa, very little time in my halls. So it was the right time to come back. I was wasting time there, and I am a little bit of a home bird. I love Manchester, very kind of loyal to the city. Spent some time in London later on in the career, but came straight back to Manchester. So it always feels like the right place for me, and just didn't. We'll talk about purpose in this episode, I'm sure, but didn't really feel like I had a purpose at the time. So needed to get into work and start making some money. Stop being a bum.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar. I went to Sheffield from Manchester, and I literally remember the first 3 people I saw in my halls of residence I went to college with, and I was like, "What the fuck?" So Leeds and Sheffield is where everyone goes, right? I had a similar experience, but I didn't quit. Like the thought of leaving and going home, I was just like, "Nah, not for me." I blagged my way onto a different course. I did 3 years of the same shite of not doing any work and enjoying it, and it worked out for me. But I sounds like you had a bit more get up and go in terms of finding a job. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, there was one defining moment. I went in. I had a good pal who was doing computer sciences, and he was trying to make this plane fly and take it off the runway. And I went and sat next to him. He couldn't get it to move, and we were able to look at each other and we're like, "Let's get out of here." And that was literally the moment he closed his laptop. We got in the car and we drove back to Manchester, and that was the end of the uni experience.
Wow, I like it. So you joined a payroll. What were you actually doing? Just in sales, or?
Yeah, just in new business. So at the time, 2007, umbrella payroll was a very different world than it is today. It's been highly legislated since, but a number of different solutions that contractors could take, still engaging with the recruitment agencies to kind of get the business, but then signing up the contractors. And as I say, Paystream were one of the biggest provider, probably the biggest provider at the time. They are now. Lasted about a year before a good friend of mine approached me, and not from the umbrella world, wanted to set up an umbrella company. He was from a debt management background, and kind of put his trust in me at a very young age. I was 19, and said, "Can you come and set this business up for me and with us?" So there was the 2 founders there and me sat in an office.
What did you know at 19, though, having done 1 year in a company like?
Very, very little, but I had to learn very quickly on the job. So I knew how to sign the contractors up. I knew how to engage with recruitment agencies. I knew a little bit about the legislation. I probably knew enough to get them off the ground. One of the guys was a chartered accountant anyway, so he had the tax and business acumen, but didn't have the understanding of that space.
What was it? I mean, I remember Brookson used to ring us, and we ended up doing a bit of work with them because I was a contract recruiter, right? And I mean, it seemed like a pretty easy gig. They used to just ring us up, deliver donuts and shit.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the guy called Lee Calland, if you're listening, good lad from Warrington. You probably know him. And he used to turn up, come all the way down to London, maybe take us for lunch or just buy us donuts and shit. And then I used to also get about £300 worth of vouchers I could spend in Westfield every time I passed someone on. So I was like, if I'm doing 4 or 5 contract deals a month, and some of them are not existing contractors, they're going from perm, I'm getting an extra £300 to £1,000 if I'm passing these guys. I mean, it was literally, I loved it. It was brilliant. It seemed an easy gig for him, to be honest.
To be honest, mate, what's that, 15, 16 years ago? That was the approach for a lot of companies. Some will tell you they never did it, but that was the approach for everyone. Have you got a contractor? What can I pay you? Let's get them in and looked after. And as a 19-year-old who kind of thrived on social interactions. It was the perfect sector for me to deal with because recruiters are personable, like a bit of fun.
Yeah.
As long as they liked you and you provided a good service, you'd get the business. And legislation wasn't as tight as it is now. So yeah, that was part of it. The donut drops. I think this industry's kept Krispy Kreme going, but yeah, never a big fan. It was always nights out. It was just nights out. And from 19 to my late 20s, spent a lot of time in bars with recruiters, which was great
I bet
fun.
It's great. I bet it was great. Yeah, absolutely class. So go on. So you're 19. You go into this new business, and tell us what happened. Like, what was the initial trajectory like?
Initial trajectory was good. After a very short stint, I went traveling for a couple of months. But that was at the very start of the business. Came back, and then from there, we grew that company to 60 staff in 4 or 5 years. About 5,000 contractors they were looking after. Really, really good journey. Good people. A number of them still work kind of within that business. That's umbrella.co.uk. Still going, still a player in the market, and just some solid relationships around me with big recruitment agencies that would naturally follow me into the next phase of the journey.
So you were a founding member, really. Like you were one of the first.
One of the first members of staff. Became sales director quite quickly after, so I was on the board at kind of 21, 22, and then helped kind of grow that company out. They brought some key members of staff in around me in more of an operational finance sense. And then, I stayed there until end of 2013. So 5 or 6 years with that business. Brilliant time. Earned a fortune as a young lad, and had a great time along the way. And then the opportunity came to kind of start my own group, start my own business.
Were you not an equity player in that original business?
No, there was an option, but it was never exercised. So there was an option there, but didn't have a shareholding at the time that I left. And everybody gets this, don't they? It's the start of your journey of making other people money and starting to make yourself real money. So, at 19, 20, 21, I'm earning 150 grand. I'm thinking this is unbelievable. But I was billing 3 million quid a year on my own in GP for the business. And I thought, right, I can do this. I can go and do this on my own. So
what sort of margins? I mean, GP, what sort of margins
were great back then. We'd be making 25 quid a timesheet plus that on top from all the expenses that umbrellas could obviously process. So you'd get the VAT. So we were making good money.
How many contractors did you need to have about 3 million?
I think I had about 1,400 contractors under my own name.
And how many recruiters were you dealing with to get to that? Because they would be part of it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, recruiters with the main lead source. Probably 100 agencies that I would be looking after. Each agency, there might be a small business with 2 or 3 recruiters. You might be looking after a Michael Page, a Walters, or a Morgan Hunt, who'd be giving you 40, 50 joiners a week. So a number of big players in there, and you
can't know all them contractors. Like, it's impossible. You might sign them up, but you're not the guy who's going to get to know them all, are you?
No, wouldn't know the contractors, but would absolutely know every referring consultant, and kind of made it my business to know every consultant, know about them. And I think it's very similar to recruitment. You need to know your candidates, you need to know your clients, but we were providing a service. It was a personal service in terms of that relationship management piece. So I made it my absolute goal to understand everything about that recruiter that I was working with, so that it became more of a personal relationship. And, you'd get invited to weddings, to nights out, to football games with them, to their own football matches. And that's when, you kind of cracked it, when they're inviting you to those kind of things, because they had to trust you. They had to know that you're going to do a good job. A contractor is a recruiter's lifeblood, isn't it? If you mess up, their billings go, contractor walks off site, everything goes to shit. So I made it my absolute goal, and that's where the nights out came from, to just get to know everyone. We were literally out all the time. It was brilliant.
It sounds it. So then you get this opportunity to go and launch your own company. How does that all come about?
My previous boss at Paystream, a lad called Matt Tyson, who I think you've spoken to recently.
Yeah.
So yeah, Matt had sold his company and was looking for kind of the next move. We started talking. We both got on really well when we worked together previously. We both gone and done well. Matt sold. I was ready for the next chapter.
He's a City fan, right? He's a good lad.
He is a blue, which is
He's
probably
a good lad. He's a good lad.
One of his downfalls.
Really good lad.
We put those differences to the side. I'm red. He's a blue. And yeah, we set up our first company in 2014, a company called Walker Smith Global. There was nothing global about us. It was all UK. It was umbrella, CIS, accountancy. What we thought, we'll stick a little global on the end because one day we will end up having an international offer, and it gives you that vision. So yeah, we started first office, 3 of us in Manchester in King Street. We actually started with another investor. So we were invested in by Hamilton Bradshaw. So a number of people remember James Carton, the old HB guys. That didn't go the way we thought it might have done. It was a 50-50 split. We just didn't quite get the value out of that relationship. So one of their investment directors, who was looking after us at the time, bought back that shareholding. We bought back a little bit, and he came on full time. So then there was 3 of us. Myself, Matt.
So he left them and joined.
Came on full time with us. Yeah, came on after about a year. A guy called Stephen Mix, and then it was.
What do you have to do in that? So obviously this is a different conversation. What sort of things do you have to do to get a payroll company ready for scale? Because it sounds like each one you grow pretty fast, like quite fast compared to a recruitment firm.
They can grow quickly. Yeah, they can grow quickly. So it is a service business. Your operations is key. You need to make sure you've got the right system, the right operators, the right people in place. Customer service, because it is a services business, is vital. And I think a lot of providers in our space can overlook it. They can see contractors a bit of a commodity. I've probably talked about numbers of contractors and GP and stuff. But what you've got to remember is each contractor is an individual whose money you're taking care of. So that customer service element is absolutely critical. So you need a payroll function, you need a customer service function, and then you need a sales function to go out and build the relationships with a strong kind of eye on the finances in the background, because it's very, very cash rich, cash heavy. A lot of cash coming in, a lot of cash going out. So
what I'm just thinking, to get something set up, you need a sales guy, right? You need someone like you who's going to go out and do the front office.
Yeah.
You need a system.
Payroll.
Yeah.
And a payroll system.
And a payroll system.
And then you need someone to speak to the contractors. So a customer service person. So we started with 3 people.
Did you split the 3 of you up doing those 3 jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to get your hands dirty a little bit. So I'd still, when we set it up, I'd still speak to contractors myself. But if you split it into sales, which is agency relationship to contractors, payroll, which is paying the people, and then customer service, which is actually speaking to the contractors. So 3 people to set the business up. Who did
each of them? So you did the sales.
I did the sales. Chap called Liam Kearney, who'd worked with me previously, did the payroll and customer care. And then we had, Matt, who was kind of operations and people. So we were getting our hands dirty. Don't get me wrong. We were grafting and doing a little bit of everything. And then you just plug and fill those teams as you grow and scale quite quickly. So, yeah, that was the first business of what would become the Worker Group. So that was business number 1, which was Walker Smith Global.
Right.
Fast forward. So throughout that journey, we acquired 6 companies. So we always had a vision of buying in expertise. So we would buy in companies that we didn't have the knowledge in, but still were able to service the recruitment sector. So when I talked about the global, we wanted to do international payroll, but we didn't know what to do. So we bought an international payroll company, plugged them into the group. We wanted scale, so we bought a few more umbrellas just for volume. And we wanted a really solid accountancy offering. So we went and bought an accountancy provider, contractor accountancy provider in London.
So we'll go to the growth bit in a minute, but like I'm interested in that foundational Walker Smith Global. Like, tell us that journey before you think about acquisitions. How did that linear growth look over the time you were just Walker Smith Global? Like, what year on year? How did it grow?
So year on year, you're always looking at contractor volume. So how many contractors are you paying?
It's really simple business, really, isn't it?
Really like, simple business. Yeah. Each contractor generates you a timesheet value. So the more contractors you're paying, the more timesheet margin you're taking. So first board meeting, I remember we did 80 quid GP, but we'd spent 72 grand in the month. And we're like, shit, this is a problem.
Yeah.
We then landed a contract with a construction agency for 100 workers. So we were off and running, 100 workers being paid. And we had a target on the board to get to 500 workers within kind of 6 months. That was the target. If we get to 500 workers, we can plug the teams. That's when you start to grow. We did that. Next target then becomes 1,000. So 1,000 contractors within the business within kind of 18 months, 2 years was the focus. We did that by achieving 700 ourselves and then buying in 300. So we bought a small umbrella. So we acquired an umbrella and plugged that gap with an acquisition. So you just milestone it, very similar to a contract recruit. You know, you look at how many runners have you got out? What does that equate to in GP or RFI? Very similar to an umbrella business. It's based on volume of timesheets, and that will churn out a number.
It does sound. Like I say, it sounds incredibly straightforward. Like I don't think people. If you think about what goes into a recruiter to get to the point of being a good quality contract recruiter, like there's so much training involved.
Yeah,
because you think about it, they've got to do all that work to get the job and fill the job, which is the bit that you don't have to worry about. You letting them do all that. You're letting them do all that work, and you're literally coming in at the best point where everyone's happy. Everyone's done the deal. Like,
and that's the import. That is the importance. It's probably overlooked of what the service providers do, because all that work's gone into finding a candidate, placing them, getting them on site. You pass that to a service provider that doesn't get them paid in the first week, and they walk off site. It's very quickly undone. I've probably undersold the industry there. There's a lot in the background around how you have to be from a legislation perspective, how you have to operate from a service perspective. The relationship element, I've probably made it sound easy, but it isn't easier to sell than what the recruiter would have to do to get someone.
But you are also very dependent on the recruiters doing their job, aren't you? If recruiters don't
100%.
do well, you're not doing well. So
that's it.
You must. Did you, like you said, how did you work out that I need 100 recruiters? Was that just trial and error, or is there method behind that number?
I'd like to tell you that there was, some magical science behind it, but you'd set a target, you'd have conversations with recruiters, you'd understand what kind of volumes they're placing, and that would get you there. And if you're short, you need to go and find new relationships. And that's where every year you set your forecast. If you wanted to grow by 1,000 contractors, you look at your current agency base. Have we got enough in there to support that growth? And if not, can we squeeze a bit more out of them, or do we need to fill the hopper with some new agencies? And that's the way we forecast every year. And, it is, as I said, it's a big relationship play. It's a big service play, but you're looking at contractor volume each year.
Is there any sectors specifically that you lean on within recruitment? Like, is it like trades and labor? Is it healthcare? Is just certain markets you would?
Each provider will have the niche. So some will specialize in education. They do really well out of that. Some will be construction focused. We always found that construction, rail, and engineering were just our bread and butter, because of the type of people that you're working with, because of the volumes, and you set yourself up for that kind of that volume play. We might register 500 guys in a week, 500 girls in a week. They might be gone in 2 or 3 weeks because they're only on short-term contracts. Whereas some other providers might say, I want IT contractors that are going to stay for 6 months.
Yeah.
But we just found our niche in kind of engineering, rail, and construction.
I wanted to quickly interrupt this episode to update you on what it is I actually do all day, apart from the RAG podcast, of course. Now, most of you know from the episodes that I am the founder of Hoxo, right? What you probably don't know is that we're currently working with over 250 recruitment agencies and over 4,000 of their recruiters around the world in every continent, and helping these businesses brand themselves and the people in the company better. Now, we have built a creative team over the last 6 years that helps manage the creation of new agency brands. Obviously, a lot of the listeners in the RAG are starting their businesses for the first time. But more often than not, we rebrand tired companies. So many businesses we work with are smashing it when it comes to revenue and performance, but their website and their online story was built back when they started for like 500 quid, and it just does not represent who they are today. So we believe getting that right becomes building a brand becomes your anchor. Now, every good brand also needs traffic, right? You need people to see it, to come to the website, see you online, and that's where your people come in. So we work to either manage the personal brands of your team, or we can teach you how to build the brand yourselves. All of it is designed to give you consistency on LinkedIn that helps you stand out from the competition, show your personality, show and add value, and ultimately make more money. Now, I personally speak to potential new customers along with my business partner, Amma. So I would love to spend some time with you, my RAG listeners that I potentially don't even know yet. Any of you that are interested in building a brand that's fit for purpose in 2023 and beyond, come and speak to us. Just click the link in the show notes, fill in the form, and we will be in touch with you within 48 hours to book a 30 minutes video call ASAP. Right, back to the show. Is that a real challenge then in terms of the growth? You got all these new people coming in, but then the amount of turnover people leaving must be like managing that balance.
The churn's always, every provider would say the churn's always the challenge. It's how do you try and get them coming back on the next contract? How do you remind them that you are their employer? So, come back to us for your next assignment. But as you know, a recruiter will say, well, they moved to a different agency. That recruiter's got a relationship somewhere else. They're gone. They've gone to someone else. So that churn was always, at the front of your mind. And that's why you've just got to get the volume to keep plugging that gap and keep growing. So more in
when it comes to cash as well, like that must have been a concern. So like, because you've got to have the cash to pay everyone, you must be taking on a hell of a lot of debt to get going, especially in the early days.
Yeah, in the early, that's where kind of the JV came from. In the early days, it was to plug the initial kind of requirements. A lot of the agencies we'd work with were personal relationships. You'd say, look, it's paid when paid. You pay us, we pay the contractors. There's no credit option. As you start to grow, credit becomes a question asked by a lot of agencies. You pay the contractors next week, I'll pay you in 30 days. And there's no privilege for that. You don't charge them any different. You just kind of have to do it because that's the way the world is. You're a bit bigger. But yeah, umbrellas are typically quite cash rich because you've got a lot of cash coming in the door. You sit on the VAT, pay as you earn an NI. Obviously, it's paid out to the revenue, but it's there in your cash reserves. So, yeah, they are quite cash-rich companies, but you have to have an eye on cash all the time.
Yeah. What was your biggest challenge in those early days for Walker Smith? Then, if you go back, what would you say? Where was the hairy moments where you think it nearly fell apart or things were going wrong?
That first board meeting when you've sat there and you've done 80 quid GP and you spent 72 grand, you do question, shit, is this going to work? Is it the right decision? But you've just got to keep plugging away. I think the biggest challenge probably came a couple of years in when we had 10 staff, and people will resonate with this. When you've got 4 or 5 staff in an office working closely with the directors, they feel part of the family.
Yeah.
When you get to 10 staff and there's the next phase of that business growth, they either want to go on that journey with you or they fall out of the process because it's just not the company that they started with. Yeah. So probably that first phase of growth was taking it from 10 to 20 to 50 staff. We had to do a lot of work on the vision and values about who we were, about how we wanted to be internally and externally, what we wanted to be perceived as. So we brought somebody in to do that work with us, which was huge. But we lost some good people along the way that just didn't want to go on that growth journey with us because it was always set up as a buy, build, sell, capital sale play. Yeah. And that's fast growth, that's fast pace, that's high volume, high energy. And yeah, I think some people want to go on that journey and some people don't. So
what were you like in terms of, because I can get a vibe from you that you'd have been brilliant at the sales side. I can tell you would have been so good at that, going out and buying drinks. And we've done it. We've been out at Christmas. It was great fun, right? What were you like? Because I think that was always my strength. But then the bit that I've always struggled with, that I'm still developing, is my people management side, which, if you're a sales director and you're building a sales function, it's not all about you. It's about evolving other people. And how did you find your own development into that role and how, talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because it's a similar thing to recruitment. As a top biller, you don't necessarily want to take them off the off the desk and get them managing people, because it's not necessarily in their psyche. It's not necessarily their strong point. I struggled with it. And if any of my team are listening over the years, they'll say that, it was great leading from the front, but some of the gaps around skills, knowledges, structure,
training, development,
training, keeping them to that structure, probably a bit too lenient, because the management side of things, the thought of micromanaging just isn't in my DNA. So I would always lead from the front. I would always be top biller. I would always be bringing the sales in, and they'd get support. But ultimately, we addressed that. So we brought in a sales manager to look after the team, because it is probably one of my weak points.
At what point do you do that, do you think? For anyone who's listening, what point do you what's the symptoms or the size that means that you probably should, if you're the founder and you're not the best at this, when do you start investing in someone else to look after your team?
I think there's a balance of when it starts to affect your own sales. So if you're taken from day-to-day selling, driving the business, and being seen as that person leading the business from a sales perspective, if you're spending 2 days a week managing a team and not getting the right result out of them, and that is impacting results from a GP numbers perspective, it makes perfect sense to plug that gap, take the 2 days back, grow it, and support the team. I don't necessarily think there's a number of people you need in your team to make that, the right time. But we did it when we had 4 external guys. So we had 4 external guys. I was trying to manage them and trying to sell them. We thought, actually, somebody needs to come in now and harness.
How big was the business at that point? How many staff was in the business at total?
Probably had 40 staff across London and Manchester.
That's the big difference between what you do and what, say, Hoxo does compared to our client base. Is we're not all salespeople, are we? Like, my business is 40 staff, and there's 3 of us in sales, and the rest are doing the work, right? And you would have been the same. You have all these people doing customer success and operations, and there's only a handful of you at the front.
That's it.
Is recruiters is everyone's on the front, and there's a handful at the back. It's totally different.
That's a big challenge, because obviously you want to incentivize and motivate a sales team, but you've got to remember that they're sat in an office with payroll teams and customer care teams who aren't incentivized in the same way. Oh. But you're trying to create a culture of high growth sales. So that was always a challenge. I always remember going into my agency and thinking, this is mega, because they're ringing bells, it's wild, there's deals being done, and I want to try and implement some of that, but I can't, because it's a service business. So that was always a challenge. But I tried to take a few of the things that I saw in my agencies and bring not all of them, of course.
So talk us through that initial plan to then start expanding. You touched on it before, but you started going, well, we think through acquisition, we're going to end up growing quicker. How did that conversation evolve?
That's it. So first small acquisition was to simply plug a gap in the forecast. So there was a small umbrella, 300 contractors that was for sale that we could acquire, take the contractor book, plug it into ours, and move forward. So that was the first one.
Do you keep any of the people or not?
A couple, but it was only a small business. They only had 3 or 4. The director exited, and we kept a couple of the payroll people. And naturally, over time, that falls away. Then we looked at buying in expertise. So where we had gaps, we wanted to provide an international offering. Tried to do it ourselves, didn't quite work. So we went and acquired an international payroll company. We then thought, we've got an accountancy offering, but it's not great. So we went and acquired a big accountancy provider in London. So what we did is we acquired in skills and obviously volume with it, but we plugged gaps in our skill sets and our service offerings with more established, more experienced companies that can get you towards the end goal quicker, achieve that better multiple, but also their experience, they're embedded in what they do. So instead of you trying to start it yourself, build a team, prove your service levels, you just buy in that expertise and you buy in that proven track record. So they were the 2 main ones. We bought a big accountancy provider, a big international provider. So then we had the kind of full scope of offering. You had umbrella, CIS, international accountancy. So
what was that like? What was that process like to go through? How heavily involved were you in the acquisitions?
I was always involved in in every acquisition in terms of meeting the people. But we had an M&A director. So Steve, from his Hamilton Bradshaw background, was our M&A guy. So he would find the deals, negotiate the deal, close the deal. But along the way, you have to meet their staff and you have to get them bought into the next phase of their journey. Because if they join the group, they want to know what that means for them. Is there more opportunity? What's the culture fit? How do we all piece together as one group? So that was where I would come in and use the kind of personal approach, the relationship skills that I've got, and sit with members of the company we were buying and try and kind of give them an insight into what we were all about. But the nitty gritty, getting into the numbers, closing the deal, the legal side, yeah, Steve and Matt would take care of that.
And how did you find the integration of those bigger companies where it's not, you're not just buying a contract, but you're actually taking the expertise? What was it like from a cultural integration perspective?
We learned a lot along the way. I think that the biggest learning was if you acquire a company, so you've got your own company, you Walker Smith, then you acquire a company which does international, then you acquire an accountancy provider, to go and leverage that cross-sell, to go into a business and be able to say, we do everything, but that company does that and that company does that and we do this. It's very messy. So we really didn't nail the cross-sell for a good few years because we were all separate brands. And that's where the worker group came from. So in time, we consolidated and we named everything worker this, worker that, worker that. So it was dead easy for the sales team to go in. But because they were all in different locations, we had London, we had Manchester, we had Leeds, we learned that, and COVID helped this, the power of getting everybody together over a Zoom or a Teams once a month and giving a company briefing and making sure that everybody knows other people within the business and other people within the businesses have opportunities to talk and tell the wider group what they're all about. That massively helped. And then doing a few events each year to get everybody together so that they feel part of one business. I think in the early days, we didn't do that. We let everybody kind of run on their own. So they were standalone businesses and they would run and nobody really talked. And I don't think you can be a true group until you properly integrate everybody under one banner. So yeah, we learned a lot with that.
What about in terms of sales? Because did they have sales teams and you had a sales team? And
yeah, they'd all have their own sales teams. But
how did
those sales teams
challenging?
Yeah, it was. Those sales teams would have their own product lines that they were selling. So you'd go in and understand, right, if you're selling to the recruitment market that product, what's to stop you going and talking about the rest of the products that the group sells? But what you'd find is they were so focused on what they're selling that they're not really bothered about the rest of the group because they're making commission on what they're doing.
To make their own number, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how you'd position it in recruitment. You've got a DevOps contract recruiter and you go and buy an engineering agency and you go, right, well, is there any synergies there between the clients? Can we start passing it across? Well, no, I do DevOps.
It's contract and perm as well. I mean, I used to do the exact same market as my perm team and we'd do the same candidates and clients, but one was perm, one was contract. And you'd have to force a meeting with perm and contract consultants together because otherwise perm would never even ask for a contract role and we didn't give a shit about the perm jobs. So it was like that's
probably the best comparison.
We'd always tag team up and it worked really well because we'd be like, look, we have Enquist, it's Anthony, I'm Sean, we've got perm contract, we do all these things. And together you will look a more complete solution anyway. But I'm asking out of interest based on my own business as well, because we have different service lines that are to the same client base. And I do find it difficult to, did you go down a route where like everyone sold individually and then, or did you merge everyone to selling everything? Like, how do you make sure there is that cross-selling opportunity across because they're all the same customers?
They are. We did it in 3 phases, really. The first was consolidation. So everything became worker group. So you became worker international, worker accountancy, worker umbrella, worker solutions, which was the back office piece. So everybody, the messaging's clear. And obviously you get all of your literature in line so that if somebody lands on your website or they've got a document, they can see that you do everything. Then obviously you've got the upskilling phase of going through the training with all the teams and giving them enough insight to be able to have a conversation, but not necessarily making them an expert because that would just be overkill. And then just building a lead funnel so that the leads can be channeled into the right teams. So whether that's a URL where there's a drop down and the lead can go on and it goes to someone who can close it.
They can choose what they want to talk about.
Product is, what they want to talk about. But just a lot of kind of fact-finding documents with your clients, and making sure that that the client knew you did it. So you were talking about it through social media, you were talking about it in every meeting, becoming that kind of one-stop shop, but not making the sales guys try and sell everything in detail, just making sure that they can reference it.
Would they still pass it across to the experts?
They still pass it across to the experts to sign it up. So you become a lead funnel as a sales team, really, but making sure that it's captured properly. You can be in danger of confusing your sales team and confusing the sell.
Yeah, I've seen that in recruitment firms. I've seen it in my own business. It's especially when it's the same customers. I think when the customer base are completely different and you've got service lines to different sectors, they do run independently. It's okay, but when you've got the same client name and you're selling different services, you're all actually ringing the same people, and it's a bit crossover. And it could be. Did you ever have that where
we did.
Multiple salespeople phoning the same clients and pissing them off, and
and I think this is the beauty of where your data comes in, isn't it? If people are using the CRM properly, you're all right. But as we know, salespeople don't always use CRMs properly. The other thing just on that is you are always going to get people that want to do it and always people that don't want to do it. And I think it's the people that want to stay in their own lane and do what they do. You can't change them. We tried to change people and it didn't work, and they just go back to type. And that's fine. Like, if that's what they're great at, let them plow that line. If you've got people that want to learn more and want to cross-sell and want to sell different products, encourage them to do so and incentivize them to do so, because they'll want to do it for their own growth. But you will get people in there that just want to go and do their own thing. And there's no problem with that. I used to really hate it. I'd be like, everybody needs to be able to cross-sell. I want them doing this. But then in the end, I was like, I'm just going to relax, and you're great at what you do. Just keep doing it. There's no problem.
So do you think there's an element there, and this is across all business, but definitely in the sales side, is like accepting that things are they're not going to be perfect. Like, they're never going to be, like, you've scaled and exited and walked away, and I bet it wasn't perfect, right? It's
not perfect.
Because we all want this perfect business where everything's in lines and sales are happening perfectly, every sector. It's kind of not, like, no business is built that way.
I don't think I've ever been into a recruitment agency that cross-sell perfectly, that the contract and perm teams working hand in hand, everything's spot on. It doesn't happen because we're people at the end of the day, aren't we? And everybody is different. You know, if you could cut the top of everyone's head off and look inside and see what they're thinking, it'd be wonderful, but you can't. So I think you have to get to a level of acceptance that you can do what you can do, and you can make your messaging as slick as possible and cut out as much of the noise, but ultimately it's never going to be perfect.
No.
Yeah.
Well, so you've got these 3 business units now, and you're ramping up. The branding's done, the sales, it's getting there. It's not perfect, but it's moving. How did it evolve into the exit? I know you said it was always going to be a scale and exit play, but how did it, when did you know you were probably at a point where it wasn't about just keep acquiring more and more? It was about, or how many more did you acquire before you got to that point? Because
we did a couple more. Yeah, we did a couple more. So we did 6 acquisitions in total and a couple of joint ventures with people to launch services in our group. So we knew we couldn't add any more product lines.
What's the difference between a joint venture and an acquisition for people that don't know?
An acquisition is, in our case, we just go and buy their business and their people and their contractors and bring it into the group. A joint venture is where we would back someone to set up a new service in our company. So where we didn't have a service line or a skill set, we'd bring someone in and go 50-50 with them, or whatever that split looked like. And we would provide the capital at the start. We would provide central services for them, so marketing, finance, accounting, customer care, whatever it is they need for them to just go and grow that business. And a bit
like you did in that first one without the equity play.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. That's it. Yeah. So you provide a central function. I know a lot of recruitment groups that
of course
do that. They provide a central platform and back top billers in different sectors.
Yeah.
They're very similar to that, just a bit of a partnership. So that kind of brought us to, we had a it's a bit wanky, but we had a sheet on the wall with 2020 vision on, and the 2020 vision from 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 was exit at 2020.
Now, is this what everyone knew, or was this just the board knew?
Senior management knew, and I think that most of the team knew we were on an aggressive plan to sell. they probably just didn't realize it would happen so quickly. So yeah, 2020, COVID hit 2020.
Oh yeah,
COVID hit.
definitely. Let's not forget that one.
It was definitely then.
Were you in
So
a position before COVID that you thought it'd be time to get it
we
on
were,
the go?
we were right. We were doing the right level of GP. We were doing the right EBIT number. We had every service line in place. Systems were right. Customer reviews were great. So we thought if we were going to go, we're on the right trajectory. Now would be the time. And we had a bit of interest, but then we had a firm interest from a big provider in our space, which we played on. You know, we met a few times. We talked about it. And then, COVID hit and we did the whole acquisition over Zoom. So everything, all the legal meetings, all of the conversations about numbers, where you're at, how you're tracking, in the main, bar a couple of meetings, was done over Zoom.
What about the actual business though? Because you're going into a pandemic thinking, right, we're this size, we've got this much money, GP, all of that. And then surely you must have took a hit financially and contractor numbers must have slid off a cliff, no?
Yeah, we did. Contractor numbers dropped by up to 70% at one stage. So during COVID, we lost kind of 70% of our book that we were paying because no one was out working. So
does that not frighten the shit out of you though, and think it's all going to come down?
It did, because the other thing as an umbrella is you're the employer. So furlough was a huge part of it. The fact that there was something for these contractors that wasn't working, and that was a massive.
And you had to go out and furlough. Sort out furlough on their behalf.
We had to pay the furlough on their behalf and then claim it back. So you think you're doing that for a couple of thousand people. It's a big old task, and you can't charge any margin on that furlough.
No.
So contractor numbers dropped by 70%. We got back in July when people could go back to the office. We looked at where we were at. We had to sharpen the pencil a bit. We'd probably got a little bit not ahead of ourselves, but we were probably carrying staff and spending on things that we didn't need to do. So
how many people were in the business at this point?
80.
Right.
About 80 people in the business. So we had to sharpen the pencil. We had to sharpen up and look at where we could make some savings. Not a nice period for anyone. I know everybody would be in the same boat. But we managed to get those contractors back. So when everyone started working again, they came back. So numbers went back up to where they were pre-COVID. We'd cut some fat, so we were more profitable. We were actually more profitable post-COVID than we were pre.
I bet, yeah.
And then we had a target GP number, we had a target EBIT number that if we got to, it was the right time to start talking to people. We could confidently sit in front of people and get the number that we wanted to achieve. We garnered some interest. We took that further, and then that.
How did you do that? Did you go via a broker or anything? Did you go out and speak?
We did it ourselves. So we did it ourselves through personal relationships, through people we knew in the industry, through Steve's connections, obviously on the M&A side. We went through that process, which took 15 months, I'd say 14, 15 months. And ultimately, we sold the group in its entirety in March 21. So just coming up to 2 years ago now.
To take me back to that moment that you found out it was done.
It should have been done a few times, but with anything with lawyers being done over Zoom, just takes that little bit longer. So you think it's going to happen. You think the money's going to land and it'll all be done, and you're left waiting for another month or something. But I remember where I was vividly. I was just sat on the sofa at my wife's mum's house and got the email through. Check your banks, the money's landed, and you look at your bank and smile a little bit, and then think, shit, kind of what do you do now? Like, what next? And
that's the thing. Let's just get into that, because obviously, most people listen to the show have aspirations of going through what you've done. Like, in their own way, they want to sell something. Do I want to sell? I don't know if I'm that obsessed with the sale, but I think the process sounds like something I'd want to achieve. And the money would be. I'd love to see a bank balance of X in my personal account. That means I'm, classed as a very wealthy person. I'm sure I would, but I'm not focused on it, obsessed by it. But you must have, when you're going through it, it takes 14 months. That must have been front and center every day, pretty much, of your brain. Like, you must be thinking about all of that.
It is front and center. There's a couple of things that go through your mind, because just to caveat that, I obviously still work as a consultant for the company that bought us. So Crest Plus, which is an umbrella and CIS provider, I still work with them. So you've got an earn-out period post that, which you focused on making sure that the business you sell has a legacy, is going to still be there for the buying company. So you want to make sure your clients are secured, your contractors are secured. You've got to keep your staff motivated during that period as well, because they know there's something happening, which is difficult, and make sure that you keep your service levels and people don't jump ship because they don't know what it means.
So did you get an initial payment and then you stayed in and did an earn-out? So when you said you're on the sofa, was that the earn-out or the initial payment?
That was the initial payment. I was sat on the sofa. I was still working. I was just sat on the sofa. So that was the initial payment, and then there was a year kind of earn post that, where you're in the business, you're handling the transition because your contractors are ultimately going to be moved to another company. So you want to make sure that goes well for the contractors and for your relationships. And then ultimately, because there is an earn-out, you want to hit your targets. You want to perform, work hard, and hit the targets that are set.
Did you find it was a different level of motivation, or did anything change in that year?
It's a different feeling, I suppose, because you know that it's probably not not forever, but you know that it's a period of retention and growth.
It's like a project.
When you're on that hamster wheel of fast growth for yourself and you want to grow as quickly as you can, you're just in it, and that's, you're focused on that. It's different to making sure that you're handing over a business which is in a great place, but ultimately, you want to keep growing, and you've got to communicate to your clients that something's happening as well. So naturally within there, you've got difficult conversations around, well, what does it mean for me in the future? So it is a different period. And
how did your team take it? Because they obviously have gone on that journey with you, but they're not necessarily leaving in 12 months, or were they? What was the situation for them?
No, so everyone was offered roles in the company that bought us. Naturally, some people decided that. So we had people that had been with us from the start. They decided that I've been on the journey, I've had a great time, I'm going to go and do something else. So some people do that. Some people move across and transition across. So within the group, a number of the staff still provide the services for the businesses that were bought. So they stay, and some people go and do their own thing. We had people do all sorts, move to Dubai, go and do something totally new sectors. So some people see it as, I've had a great time, I'm going to go and try something new.
Was that hard though? Because you've got that year still, and you can see some people's heads turning. Were you like,
it is. It's a really difficult year, because you're trying to motivate people to go out and sell and have those conversations with a level of uncertainty, and no salesperson likes uncertainty or change. So that's the conundrum of managing sales versus managing change. So I'd always be aware, if you are coming to exit with an earn-out, you've got that challenge of managing performance against uncertainty and change, which is tough.
What's any advice for people if they're trying to do that? What can you
be open?
How can you mitigate?
I'd be open with people. I don't think that teams react well if you try and pull the wool over their eyes. I think what we both did, both the buying company and ourselves, was be transparent, be clear, give timelines. Do you mean to say these things are happening at these times? And if there's opportunity for growth, let them know. And if there's not, and it looks like it isn't going to work, just be open. Don't lead people down the path, because it will naturally just get to its end cause anyway.
Interrupting today's episode for a message from our sponsor, Vincere. Now, the year of 2022 was amazing for Vincere, and recruiters were a huge part of it. Check out their new microsite, which is a scroll down memory lane and a real thank you to the community that work with Vincere. The link is www.vincere.io/year-in-review-2022. Link in the show notes. If you're a Vincere customer, I think this is amazing that they're calling you out and giving you the credit. If you're not a Vincere customer, you probably should be. Give it a look. Right, back to the show. In that year, what's your life like? Because you got a 15-month-old, you said now. Yeah. Is it 15-month-old? So are you going through the earn-out whilst pregnant? Is that right?
So there was basically the business sale. We got married.
Your life must be fucking nuts.
We had a baby. We tried to move house, but that fell through.
Yeah,
And
sounds like my life in the last year.
Exactly, you've got the earnout as well. So it's carnage. It's just carnage. And then, you transition into a new company, to the one that bought us, you transition into there, and ultimately you don't take a minute to stop. You just head down. Everything's going on around you, but you're so caught up in it. And then it kind of reaches a point. It just reaches a point where you think, right, where am I at now? Like, what am I? Like, do I need to reinvent myself? Do I need
So what happened at when the earnout? Tell us about how the earnout came to fruition, and you genuinely did leave the business. What was that? Talk us through that story.
Left the business in the guise that I was in. So yeah, the earnout ends, and there's an option. You can either go, which Matt and Steve did, they went, or you can stay on in one of the companies within the group. So I stayed on with Quest, became their sales director, made sure that the clients that moved across from Worker are looked after and retained, and Quest did a brilliant job of that. Did that for a year until December, and then spoke to the guys and said, look, I'll stay involved. But ultimately, it's been a whirlwind kind of 15 years of head down graft. Just had a baby, haven't had a minute to really sit down and think, what does the next chapter look like? So yeah, it was a bit of a realization around Christmas time to think.
How old are you now?
35.
Yeah, so you're younger than me. To have achieved all that by 35, like you say, 15, since you were 19, 20, you've been on that hamster wheel.
Yeah, in the same industry, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And you do need to sit down and go, right, what is the next chapter? Do I continue in this industry? But that has its challenges, because obviously you're not in charge of the business anymore. It's not your business. You can't make ultimate
unless you start
decisions,
another one,
which we can't, and we wouldn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just to put out there.
Have you got a period of time you wouldn't? Yeah, you've got a non-compete, or
So
or is it for?
You get a non-compete period, which you can't do anything in. But genuinely, I wouldn't have the appetite to go back into this industry in the future and ever set one up. It's a tough industry, and all the companies in there doing it at the moment are established and doing great jobs.
So once you finished up on a break, what was that like? What did you do?
I think it's lonely, if I'm honest, because you're in an office of 100 people. You're the main man. You've got people around you. There's an atmosphere, and the next day you sat at home on your sofa, and the wife and kid have left the house, and you're like, right, what is my purpose now? Like, what am I all about? Have I lost my purpose? Do I need to redefine myself? Do I need to find myself? Like, there is a period that the money doesn't matter, because
did you not want to have like a week or two or a month to just like go to watch United play and just doing things that like have nothing to do with work? And
I did that. We had the honeymoon, which we put off for years. So we had the honeymoon in January. There's some thinking time. I'd obviously had Christmas, so I'd had that time to think. But you don't find yourself and you don't find your purpose in a few weeks or a few months. You're always wrangling with, right, what should I be doing? What should I be doing with the money? What should I be doing with my day-to-day? How do I find structure again? Because I don't have an office to go to day-to-day.
Does having money in the bank, like a large sum of money in the bank, almost become a bit of a burden that you're like,
yes.
I don't want to burn it. I don't want.
Massively. I found so. I don't know about other people. That I'm not materialistic, so I've not gone and bought a watch. I've got a car with 100,000 miles on the drive. I've not bought a bigger house. I'm one about experiences and having people around me. And I think I need people around me. And what happens is you close the office doors, you go and work, obviously, for another business, and then you sat at home and you think, shit, it's lonely. It can be lonely at times, being really transparent. You're like, right, I need to work out what this next chapter.
So how long because this was last year, wasn't it? The start of last year, you were.
Yes, start of last year. I was in at Crest full time, and I was head down.
When did you stop? Was it end of the year just gone, or the year before?
End of the year just gone.
Right.
So December. Stopped full time. So stopped full time in December. And you need to take a little bit of time to look at yourself.
You haven't really, like you're talking February and you're already like, I know what you're up to, right? You're building, you want to build something else, you want to do something else. So you've had a little break, but you must be thinking you got ants in your pants, like staying at home or whatever.
It is purpose for me. And I think that, a lot of people, if they come to exit, I would encourage people to don't think about the money, think about what happens after. Like if you're in your business and you love it, you love the people, as soon as you sell and you're out, there will be a time where you sit there, unless you've got loads of millions where you can go and live abroad and play golf every day. That's great.
Yeah.
But if it's a nice figure, then there will become anxieties. You'll be thinking about how to invest it. Am I making the right decisions? If your income stops, you're just watching it go backwards. So, you've got that kind of conundrum to think about. Now, this might sound ridiculous to people and think, what are you moaning about? You've just sold your business. And I'm not. It's a nice position. But the intrinsic things around purpose and being around people and making a difference each day, kind of need to find that again.
The spending the money though, which I don't care if you've got $1 million or 100 grand or whatever, when you're spending money without money coming in, it feels different. Like it's not the same feeling when money's coming in every month and you're spending it. Like the next month's more's coming in. So it's like, it kind of, whereas when you sat on a pot without a new income stops or slows down, it will feel. It definitely does feel. So you need I don't know. I don't think I'd ever want to completely stop work, and I wouldn't want to sit on a pot and be like, watch it. Like you said, I probably wouldn't analyze it. I think
it'll just go. Like it will just disappear. Whether it's 5 years, 10 years, it will go.
Yeah.
If you don't do something with it. So there is that element, and income is obviously important because you spend to your habits, don't you? You earn a certain amount, you spend it really, unless you're a great saver. Recruiters will know if you get a massive paycheck, then you're gonna go out and have a good night or go on holiday or whatever else. So I think income's important. It's about kind of the next phase.
So tell us what you've actually planned to do. What is the next phase for you? Because it is different. Like you mentioned property. So how's it all come about?
Yeah, so property is something that I've been kind of keen and focused on for a few years now. So I've known a chap, many New Year's Eve party. We've never really talked about what we did. Got reintroduced to him a couple of years ago by a friend who said, there's a couple of lads who are in property. They're sourcing deals for people. They're doing their own kind of flips and refurbs and that kind of stuff. But they've run out of money. And I know you've just sold your business. Do you want to have a conversation? So it started as if, do you want to fund a couple of projects for us and get an 8% return? So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. It gives me a nice return. But then it was a further conversation of actually, if I put a bit more in, why don't we make this a real company? And, we'll run it as a company. We'll set up a marketing department. We'll have a finance team. We'll do more deals. We'll sell more deals and we'll raise more finance ultimately. So, we have a company, Northwest Property Investments, which 2 arms to it. We source properties for investors, people who want to get into the market but don't really know how to find a deal off market, so not through Rightmove, direct to sellers. And within that, we can do the construction work, the build phase, the renovations, and then we build our own portfolio. So we've started acquiring stuff on the Fylde coast, so Blackpool, Poulton, Lytham, that kind of area. A few old hotels in Blackpool that we're turning into B&Bs, Airbnbs. Some absolute horror shows that you see around there, but you're picking them up for like 35 grand for a 9-bedroom hotel. So can't gamble with the deals. And that is kind of the focus at the moment. So I think my attention, because of the network and because of who I've dealt with in the past in the recruitment space, recruiters are generally quite generalistic, but quite time poor, money rich in certain elements, and aren't always the best. I know this from my relationship with recruiters, aren't always the best with managing the money. So my natural thought within the property business was, I'm not a builder, I'm not a tradesman, but I am a networker and I'm a relationship builder, and people trust me in my network. So my role now within that business is to help the recruitment sector, help recruiters who've got some money lying around, put it to work really with a fixed return, with some securities over the properties, with personal guarantees. And ultimately,
so for example, if I've got 100,000 sat there, let's say, and it's literally going down with inflation.
Yeah.
What could you do for it? Give us an example of how that would translate for someone.
So we would have found a property that we might want to keep ourselves, and it might be 80 grand cash purchase, and it might need 20 grand spending on it. Let's round the numbers up for ease. Now we can either put 25% in ourselves and take a bridging loan for the rest of it, of which you pay higher interest rates, do the work, put it on a mortgage in the future, take the money back, and pay the bridging loan back. An easier thing for us to do is say to a private investor, you give us that 100 grand, we'll buy the house, we'll do the work with it. You will get security over the house. If anything went wrong, you've got the first charge, like a mortgage company would have a first charge.
What does the first charge mean? Does that mean they own it?
First right on the house, really. So you've got the charge over the house, the first charge over the house. So mortgage companies will have first charge over your house. So if anything went wrong, they can come and repossess it. So that's kind of the security that we'd offer. And we would offer a fixed return every month on that money. So we would say for that 100 grand, we'll pay you 8% over the year. So you're going to get 9,600 back either at the end of the year, or we can pay you monthly, but you're making something on that money rather than that 100 grand next year being worth 97 grand because inflation's gone backwards. So I think I tried a few things when I sold the business. I tried to invest in the stock market, tried to invest with a wealth manager, and it went backwards. It didn't make any money. I don't know about crypto. I don't know about anything else. But what I do know is property's only ever going in one direction. It's only going up. And because you get the securities over it, that was where I first started investing my money. And it was a return each month on some money that I had sat around, which has now just developed into, an actual business that I'm involved in. So
so for you, it's building the asset, the portfolio, the rental recurring revenues. And also you're able to work with people in the market, recruitment owners, recruitment leaders, people with cash, and give them a viable investment strategy.
Investment strategy. That's it. And
because everyone knows they need to invest their money, but most people, like you say, too busy. I'm the same. I avoid crypto now because I got burnt on it years ago. Even though the way I did it was I shouldn't have done it. I went with a fund manager and it was terrible. Property is that one that everyone buys houses. Everyone knows it's really relatively safe. Nothing's safe, but it's probably the best asset class you can invest in that's going to be here in the next 50 years for sure.
Absolutely. That's it. And that's why I think everything you've just described, I don't know about the other markets, but we know that property is a good asset class. So that's what it's honed into now. And so
if someone wants to find out more, what do they need to do? Is there a website, or is it just message you on LinkedIn?
So go through my LinkedIn, DM me. We do have a website, northwestpropertyinvestments.com, where you can see a little bit more about the projects that we've got. But just drop me a DM. I'm going to start posting regularly on LinkedIn about what we're doing and start to build that trust in the network that, we know what we're doing, talk a little bit more about the potential opportunities. But just get in touch. A lot of people will probably still have my mobile. It's not changed. And if anyone's
just wants to talk about business growth and exit, because look, I know you didn't run a recruitment firm, but there's a lot of similarities, a lot of synergies there. People maybe want to talk about, integrating teams, managing earnouts, that kind of stuff. Are you open for a chat with people just to give them some time?
Yeah, anything. And managing the contractors, because I'm still involved in that space without diluting myself too much. But I'm open to any kind of conversations. I think it's the network, it's the sector that I've provided services for so long. I'll continue to do it in whatever guise.
Amazing. Mike, thanks so much, mate. You're an absolute legend. I've loved the conversations we've had together. I love the story. I think it's inspirational. It's real. It's genuine. You're not talking bullshit and making people feel like they've got to do X. It's genuine, real life. And I like the fact you're already onto something else that's trying to benefit the same people that you've worked with. So good on you, mate. I wish you the best of luck. I know you'll do well. And if anyone is listening, I hope they do reach out.
Top man. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Hoxo Media. I am the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. I'll see you soon.